Monkeypox Monday, everyone. I hope you had a glorious weekend. I did. I was in Salt Lake City, Utah. Fantastic people. Here's me and a few of my friends having a typical Saturday night out. They all look like Jason Chaffetz. They do. Speaking of lazy, lazy river. Besides, President Biden's numbers are looking up, as in looking up from a bottomless pit in hell. Say hello to Ted Kennedy. According to a CBS News YouGov poll, most Americans believe things are going badly under distracted and incompetent Biden. Nearly 8 in 10 voters say things in our country are going somewhat or very badly. Now, for a comparison, getting your face eaten by a chimp gets better reviews. Science. Speaking of chimps, we got a new concern. It's called monkeypox, and it's not as fun as it sounds. Kind of gross, actually. And according to the World Health Organization, this disease is being spread by sex at raves in Europe. So just to be safe, no raves for me. In Europe. Definitely no sex with monkeys. At least for 2 weeks. You got to flatten that curve. And it is shaped like a banana. Get it out of my system. We're going to be covering a lot of monkeypox. And as far as we know, it's not spreading here, I think.
Oh, this whole monkeypox virus is completely overblown. Everyone here at the lab's infected, and we're perfectly fine.
Yes. No applause. All right. Back to the poll. So nearly 70% think the economy is fairly or very bad, and 56% disapprove of how Biden's doing his job. And if the election were held today, he'd be in bed at noon. All right, fair enough. You didn't laugh. It's okay. But that's an hour earlier than normal. Here's an interesting fact. 65% say that when important things come up, Biden is slow to act. Well, unless it's a stock tip from Hunter. But close to 40% of Dems feel the same way. We asked President Biden if he thought he was slow to act, and he replied, Thursday. Which was an answer to a question from 2 weeks ago. The poll did find 35% believe Biden addresses problems right away. Where do they find those people? Never gets old. When asked to describe their feelings about the state of the country, most people used phrases like uneasy or worrying and also frustrating, which is how Kamala Harris describes reading. But oddly, 11% said the state of the country was calm, and another 7% said inspiring. Inspiring. Are you Again, who are these people? So there's something deceptive going on here. Yeah, Biden's slow to act, especially when you look at the major crises like inflation, crime, the border, baby formula, Pete Davidson embarking on a film career. Joe's like the guy who says he's going to help you move apartments, but shows up after the work is done just to eat the free pizza. Although in Biden's America, nobody would end up getting pizza because the delivery driver would be carjacked and shot on the way. But Joe's nowhere to be seen, except when it's too late. I wonder what Joe's got to say.
No. Look, you don't think I've done this before? Come on, man. You want to talk tough with Joe? This is not my first rodeo, all right? I've been on this dance floor before. You dance with the one who brung you, all right? You put your right foot in, you put your left foot in, you put your right foot in, you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey. Come on, man. That's what it's all about. Get out of my face.
So, we ask that you save the applause until after all the awards are given. But being slow to act, is that the case all the time? Seems to me Joe actually acts fast when it serves his woke agenda. Remember the executive actions he unleashed the moment he took office? If you bought gas or insulin recently, you do. But that was the point. His election wasn't about doing something, but undoing something, erasing the previous 4 years as quickly as possible. His presidency has been like an episode of Flip This House. The demoing of the kitchen is way easier than the building of the new one. Only in Joe's case, he didn't replace the kitchen with anything at all, well, except for the corn pop story. And he showed him, right? There are other places where he acted with lightning speed. Remember accusing the Border Patrol agent of whipping Haitian migrants? He didn't even wait for the facts before he smeared him. Remember Rittenhouse? I bet Joe doesn't. But he called him a white supremacist. Turns out the only thing Joe should be president of is CNN. Think about any opportunity where he could divide the public. Anytime he could blame half the country or label them racist, he acts faster than a hit of crack. Or meth, depending on what Hunter's got with him. So when we say that Biden is a slow-walking disaster, we only wish that was the case. He actually does bad things super fast. One minute he's a yawn, the next he's flesh-eating bacteria. I mean, he was able to destroy a country that was doing just fine when he took over in just months. He replaced not getting us into endless wars with the brink of World War III. Domestically, he's a double-barrel disaster. Sure, he's an empty vessel, but the emptiness has been filled by an opportunistic infection called wokeism. He's like a newborn child adopted by the Manson family. He isn't merely a president, he's a host to a parasitic disease that infected his party and our institutions. So we got to localize this infection. And forget monkeypox. We got a pox in D.C., and Joe's the monkey. If he invites you to a rave, don't go. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She's so sharp, you might poke your eye out just by looking at her. Former senior counselor to the president, President Trump, and author of the new book, Here's the Deal, Kellyanne Conway. He's even smarter than his accent makes him sound. Fox News contributor Douglas Murray. He's so Texan, mechanical bulls try to ride him at bachelorette parties. Co-host at Fox and Friends Weekend, Will Cage. And finally, in for Cat Tip, she's so southern she sweats moonshine. Fox Business anchor Dagan McDowell. Kellyanne, congratulations on this big, thick book.
It's a door stopper.
It is a door stopper and a heart stopper, just like your outfit today. Holy crap. Look at shiny. You're like a shiny penny if it was worth something. By the way, I checked the index and I'm not in the book, but that's okay.
You're in the family picture. Surprise.
Yes, I know. How did I get into that? Do you think, when you look at what's going on right now, do you think that this decline would have happened so quickly?
No.
No.
In less time than it takes to have a baby, they ruined the country.
Yes. And that often ruins countries, babies.
But look, Joe Biden, I mean, how low can you go, Joe, is really the theory of the polling case for his presidency. And there are many ways to look at these polls and come up with the conclusion that America's actually looking past him now.
You're right.
Because he hasn't done course correction. Independents have left him. Suburban women are upset. Many of the Biden 2020 voters are now skeptical. They won't even admit to pollsters that they have voted for them.
Right.
And he's only a degree higher, really, than his vice president. So the two of them, I mean, I'm not disappointed that the Democratic Party, for all of its claims of being about youth and energy and freedom and the future, is being run by an old, angry white man.
Isn't that funny? Great. That's the irony of the whole thing. And you make a great point. And Douglas, I want to, because you being British,
here we go.
Yes.
There's always like an anti-British thing when
I was just going to say, finally, you're here in a real country.
Okay.
All of our furniture.
First question.
Our furniture is like human size. You know.
Where did you go in Britain?
I lived inside a tree. Oh, yeah. I was a Keebler elf. Isn't it a testament to the U.S. in a way that we can endure incompetent leadership? It's like almost like the best analogy I was thinking of this the other day is like the founders created a self-driving car. And so whoever's in the front seat generally can't destroy it, except Joe invited a bunch of children, into the driver's seat, and that's what we're kind of dealing with.
The analogy almost works.
See? Typical Brit.
Look, the ones I want to speak to are those 7% who say that they're inspired.
Yes.
Like, seriously, where did you get those people?
I think they watch Gutfeld.
7% of them who feel like this is all just like, oh, God, I can't wait for tomorrow. This administration's so great. I just can't wait for the next announcement and the next rollback of the next announcement. Oh, it's just so good.
Yes.
I don't know where these people are found.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I mean, I think in every population there are insane people, and they take the polls.
Yeah. Well, have you ever been phoned by a pollster?
I don't think I've ever had a phone call, period. Generally, people don't call me. I don't have very many friends, but I've learned to live with that. I like to consider myself a loner, a recluse. I collect a lot of things. Will,
I would call
pictures
you for
of you.
TV effect right now, just so you could have a phone call on television.
Yes.
I don't have your number.
Do you think it's funny?
It's not on Friends and Family. It just isn't.
Isn't it? Don't you think that the big problems don't bother Joe Biden because he's so old and it's like, how much time do I have left? He doesn't think about us. He thinks, I'm going to go home and eat Jell-O.
You know, I think it can sound flippant or dismissive, but I think Kellyanne's two choice adjectives are absolutely correct. Old and angry. The American people can forgive many things. I think they can even forgive some of their quality of life that they've given up in terms of inflation and crime. They cannot forgive the kind of incompetence they see at a podium on a weekly basis. And then when you combine that, and it reminds you of sort of like your 80-year-old grandpa, I don't want to eat my tapioca. He's not in control. He's not going to be bossed around all day.
Those are a lot of our audience, Will. We love our grandfathers who eat tapioca pudding.
That may be the Gutfeld audience, but not on Fox and Friends.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I think his reaction is to be aggressive and angry then. In those moments when he can show some independence, it is, I will not do that. And then he comes across as angry. And that anger is also unappealing when combined with incompetence.
It is true. He goes for a dramatic effect, and it just comes off as bizarre, you know? It's like road rage, you know? At the time, it feels really good, and then everybody's staring at you. Especially when you don't even have a car. Just on the road.
Wandering into traffic.
Stop! Yes. You know, there were some people in the media that claimed that Joe's doing a great job by every metric. They always use every metric. What do you think they're talking? Like, what metric could they be doing?
The only metric I can think of is he's good at maybe making people feel sorry for him. Because, is the only possible strategy at this point could be being so pitiful that he's doing that to get people to cut him some slack. Like, oh, you leave him alone. He thinks Elon Musk is his wife's perfume. I can tell you, though, that doing this does not work, because I was working this angle in high school, trying to get boys to suck face with me just out of pure pity. And it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
But I disagree with you. The American people carry a grudge just like I do. I've got a chainsaw with this guy's name on the side of it who dumped me when I was in my 20s.
What was his name?
I'm not telling you.
But I have to say this.
Yeah.
I worry about what you just said. I think too many people talking about Joe Biden's obvious mental deficiencies and deficits as a president does create sympathy for him. And sympathy makes people say, you know what, I think Barack Obama is really running the White House, the country, the Democratic Party. I feel better. To create sympathy for Joe Biden is to excuse him. And I think this man should be made to eat and own every bad policy he has foisted on our shoulders in the last year plus. Otherwise, we're excusing his conduct. He's just happy to be there. And you look at the polls, he doesn't do anything well at this point. They had COVID for a while. He had a strong hand with COVID, which is a joke since Trump left him with 3 vaccines to put in the arm, and he's been facing 3 variants. But I wouldn't create sympathy for him. By the way, I think the art of politics is not telling people what they can already see. It's telling them and reminding them what they can't see. And everybody can see this man is failing. Everybody can see a vice president who cackles at the most inopportune times, can't really speak well. People don't have confidence in their competence. I would remind people what they can't see: the Keystone Pipeline gone, the chaos at the border, the 106,000 overdose deaths when we had brought them down for the first time in 30 years, the kids being taught to hate America and each other, not love America and each other, and it goes on and on.
Yeah, and also just the the fact that we make fun of the fact that he's an empty vessel, and we forget what's being placed inside the vessel, which is a lot of this woke ideology, which is ultimately very destructing. Okay, we got to move on. Up next, Hillary's campaign manager testifies about her Trump/Russia lies.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.